I remember when my first year covering the Bills, I had written something about Pete Gogolak that Pete didn't like. And he called me aside, and I kind of apologized to him. And Cookie overheard this conversation. And when I was finished with Pete, Cookie called me over. He says, "Come here, rookie." And he says, "Don't ever apologize for anything you're right." He said.
I couldn't get by the 60s without bringing up the chance that Saban took on claiming an injured Jack Kemp. He had claimed Kemp from San Diego and didn't have him for half a season, but when he healed, he was tremendous quarterback for Buffalo. And, of course, that same year, he had beaten out the NFL Los Angeles Rams. Saban had. And signed Cookie Gilchrist, the best player in the CFL for Buffalo. And in his first year with the Bills, he was the most valuable player in the American Football League.
I was working in New Haven, and for the benefit of the boys club there, they scheduled an exhibition game between the New York Titans and the Bills. It turned out to be Cookie Gilchrist's first game as a Buffalo Bill. It also was the year that Mike Stratton joined the team. They had a lot of good rookies. In fact, I worked for the New Haven Register at the time. We sent a reporter up to East Aurora to cover training camp, and he sent back these reports about all these hotshot Bills rookies. Of course, later on in that year, they acquired Jack Kemp, and they started to build what became the AFL championship teams in 1964 and 5.
This was in the game that Buffalo had to win in '64 to get into the championship game. They had to win a game in Fenway Park against the Patriots, and it snowed like crazy, and they had a long time to get the snow off the field. And once the game started, on the very first play, Cookie knocked Chuck Shanta, the Patriots safety, knocked him cold, and stood up at the line of scrimmage and looked across at the rest of the Patriots, and he said, "Okay, which one of you bleepity bleeps is next?" And that kind of set the tone for the whole game. And the Bills went on and won, and of course went into the championship game.
The Bills took on the Chargers and took them out of the game early when Stratton put a tremendous tackle on Keith Lincoln as he tried to catch a screen pass. And the Bills dominated the game from then on and won their first championship.
The night O.J. arrived in Buffalo, my managing editor at the paper called me as we were up at Niagara University training camp then, and he says, "Don't come back to the office until you get an interview with O.J." Well, Jack Horrigan, who was the PR man for the Bills and the former beat writer for the News, says, "Well, we're going to have a press conference the next morning." And I said, "Well, Jack, that's fine. That's for television and the news, Buffalo News." But I said, "I've got to get a couple things from O.J." And he said, "Well, I'll let you ask him 5 questions." I said, "Well, all right." So when O.J. showed up at Niagara University, I was waiting for him, and Jack brought him into the room and introduced us. And I said, "Hi, O.J., how are you?" And Jack says, "That's one."
And the first thing Saban did was gather his team when they reported for camp. Gathered his team into the dressing room and told him, he would take a look at O.J. Simpson, because that was going to be the focal point of their offense from now on. They're all going to block for him. He told all the wide receivers to have their helmets fixed with bird cages, the mask, because they're going to do an awful lot of blocking, more blocking and receiving, and that's how we're going to win, he told them. And he was right.
I think I was the only one left in the press box one day in 1982 when it was 82 season, when on the great Hail Mary pass from Joe Ferguson to Roland Hooks. Hail Mary in the end zone. It was everybody had given up on the Bills winning that game, and they had completed two 37-plus yard passes to move up the field. They had no time. They had no timeouts left. And then Ferguson threw the ball to the end zone, and the deflection went to Hooks, and he scored, and the Bills won the game. And there was a lot of people, I think, had left the stadium, were ready to come back in. But the game I remember, a lot of people don't forget this game. I thought this was a major stepping stone in the development of the Marv Levy Bills. In 1987, Miami came to the Thanksgiving weekend, I believe, came to Buffalo. Bills beat them 27-0. Now, that's the only time they ever shut out Dan Marino. And I believe they piled up over 300 yards rushing. They just pounded the Dolphins. And I think they kind of put the fear in Miami, because I don't think Miami recovered from that game.
I'd like to do it all over again, but that's behind me. But I've been great friends I've built up through the years, and great memories, and I just will never equal that as far as enjoyment. It was a great way to spend a career.